Hello, this is Roger Martin, and I'm starting my journal again. This time I'm going to add some audio to it as well as some pictures and videos. Text is okay, but it's pretty boring, and you need a little more spicing than that. Again, this is from my site, Mormon.org, and that's my site address. Anyhow, up here in the upper left corner, that's a picture of me about, I'd say 56, 57. Maybe even 55. I'm almost 59 or 60 now, so this has really changed over time a little bit. Anyhow, from Billings, Montana, this is my site on Mormon.org. I'm still cashier at Walmart, still a grandfather, have 3 daughters. One is only married, Michelle, and she now has 3 grandsons. I did go serve on a mission in Korea from 74 to 76. Was the Air Chairman over 2 stakes. But there's a lot more to this picture than just who I am, what I did. Let's go back to another screen here. Here, this is recorded on, written down on August 4th, 2013. This day after my 30th anniversary, can you believe that? Or 29 years, excuse me. Next year will be our 30th. What can I say? 20 years, 29, almost 30 years with Lorna Waite. I met her in Springville. She did change my life amazingly, and I changed hers. That's another story in and of itself. Let's go down here a bit. We did change boundaries in our ward recently. Didn't get the people we wanted in, but that's the way things go. Let's go back to the beginning a little bit of my youth. I was raised in Billings, Montana, born here, out St. Vincent's Hospital. My mother had me by another man, though she married Albert Martin, and he's always been my father. So they were married, I think a couple months after I was born. I was born a couple months after they were married, excuse me. But I do remember living on South 27th Street. There may have been other places we lived, but don't remember much. The important thing is that our memories are so limited. It's the only thing we have. They're so incomplete. And a lot of times you don't want to remember the tough memories. I do remember a dog named Queenie, and she was a husky. Very protective. She happened to nip one of the children that lived beside us and behind us, and this was close to South Park, and they wanted to put her down, but Dad was in the process of moving out to Lockwood. He had just purchased some land and a house, a small house, 2 bedrooms, and no basement. He had recently had an accident with his thumb and cut it off, and from that insurance money he got the down payment to buy the house. So we moved out to 1336 Tillamook in Lockwood, and I went to school there. But before I went to school there, I went to a therapist. Dad was talented mechanically and construction-wise. I remember him tearing apart an engine, rebuilding it, putting it back in the station wagon, working on the cars, working on the house, working on the basement. Even after we moved out, he worked on the basement some more, put a bathroom in there and stuff, worked on it. He was really good mechanically and in construction. He was really good. I didn't have those skills or abilities. I could do some of it, but I was not good at it. We were so different in so many ways. I also remember the camping and the fishing. It was great. I didn't realize at the time, but he was so busy in the summer with the construction work and roofing and jobs and doing all the extra stuff around the house and the garden. He was a very busy man in the summertime. I do remember a couple hunting trips and some challenges with some of that stuff. Even a Jeep that turned over, and even a Jeep that got stuck in the cold and had to be pulled out. I can remember getting cold in the wintertime, feet and hands, really painful. Remember getting frostbitten. I mean, the cold didn't work so well. I can remember Mom doing all the things with canning and busying and sewing clothes and washing and cleaning and mending clothes, making my suits for Korea mission. There was so much. And there's no way to record it all in a journal. God's recorded it, but that's about all I can say. At Eastern Montana College, which is now MSU Billings. Anyhow, that gal in that bus ride, that was an older gal, of course, and she twisted me and worked me around, and I hated those workouts and that stretching and that therapy. I was a pretty rotten kid, and this didn't make me respect doctors or therapists or anybody in the medical profession anymore. So she stretched, twisted me, and did some tough physical therapy with me. And I still had twisted legs and still limped and still went on. Mom even got a chiropractor that worked on me, trying to get the legs a little more straightened up. But man can only do so much. When you're born with what you have, you got to work with it. Whether it's a limp or tight ligaments or whatever genetics will throw your way. We're not all born with the same body, health, strength, or condition by any means. Anyhow, Queenie was taken to a ranch, came back, and then taken further out, and we didn't see her again. I do remember grandfather a little bit. He had some fingers missing. I think a blasting cap took a couple of those fingers off. I think one of his last jobs was at the Conoco. And his mom said, I think he didn't understand English too well. I think he took the wrong prescriptions or medicine, and it did him in. Restored stocky man, pretty stern. It didn't talk much to kids. Didn't show much affection. The kids talked in one room with the women, and the adults or men talked in another room, and that's just the way they were brought up. Pretty tough, stern people. Grandmother Martin lived with my mom and dad until she passed away. There was also a gal, sister, Mrs. Scott. I don't know if that was her last name or not, I'm not sure, but we called her Mrs. Scott. She lived with grandmother for a while until she passed on, or till grandmother was forced to move out of the house. But Dad helped build an addition on that house, grandmother's house. Added a bedroom and a shower and bathroom and a utility room. And that was a big addition to the house. It was pretty small, let me tell you, for all those people that lived in there. But that's part of what I can remember with them. It's interesting. We're all different and we all have different experiences. And our parents and grandparents even affect who we are and what we think. Now, on Mom's side, there was Lauren and Gertrude Caulfield. The Caulfields were related to, and they were Mormons, and I didn't even know it. They were related to Hawkins, and the Hawkins were active, good LDS members. Grandpa and Grandma got their children baptized, but didn't do much else. Dad didn't do much else in religion either. But like I said, God is always mindful and preparing us and working with us. If we'll work with Him, it's even better. And we were baptized somewhere, I think around 12 years old, 11, 12 years old, I was. And so the older brothers and sisters were all baptized, but the younger ones weren't, and they were baptized later, but we were all baptized. None of my family's active. Even my parents, even after going to the temple, aren't active. So what's this got to do with me? I've stuck with it, and I've desired to know the truth and to live closer to God. And even in my later years, I've worked harder doing that. And I've had to work harder. I've had to repent of some things and to change my thinking, change my attitude, and change my actions. God works with us from the inside out, and it's one of the great mysteries that a lot of us forget about. After we moved out to Lockwood, went to school here, there was a little incident with my brother Everett. I don't know why we were climbing up the hills and so forth, and why we took off and left him, but we left poor Everett stranded, and we later came back and found him crying by a fence. Pretty mean brothers and sisters, let me tell you. They didn't want any little kids hanging around. We got our butts chewed out for that one, which we should have. Some of the older brothers were pretty mean. Wrong, but that's the way it was. Anyhow, I do remember, as it says here, Brother Rigby. There were probably others, but my dad still smoked, and he finally started letting the home teachers in, even though they often stopped by. He didn't let them in. Sometimes turned out the lights, just wouldn't answer the door. But finally he let in probably a brother, neither before Brother Rigby, but he finally let in a Brother Rigby, and who was a Lincoln Junior High principal that he knew. Dad didn't make it through high school, but he knew this man, and he had some respect for him. So he started to listen to him, and it started letting other home teachers in, and finally got to Chris Sealer. Chris Sealer, really, in my junior year, was the man that God had set up for me to meet. He was a 70. He was active in teaching the gospel, loved to teach the gospel. A fiery man, repaired appliances at Sears, was in the Navy. He'd been a little tough, but he knew the world and he knew the gospel. And I remember Chris telling me, I used to challenge him with every question I could think. He said, Raj, we'll tell you what we can, but there's some things we don't know, and you just have to wait to find out about them. So Chris Sealer got me going, and Kim Scott got me to seminary. And through seminary we studied the Book of Mormon, and I gained a deeper commitment and purpose with the Book of Mormon, read the year I knew was true. And I started attending church. Pretty soon got the Aaronic priesthood, and then the Melchizedek priesthood, also got a patriarchal blessing, and that was a special experience in and of itself. There are lots of things, but the Lord wanted me back, and I started going back. My dad smoked, but I used to tell him, I'd roll down the window, it was cool fall, and he'd say, roll it up, and I'd say, turn off the cigarette, put the cigarette out. I didn't want to smell like smoke. Dad would, and he got me to seminary that year, and we finished that, and I think he even went to seminary that senior year also. Those 2 years changed my life. Got me ready to go to mission, and got me active in the church and so forth. So praying and reading the Book of Mormon, attending early morning seminary was really crucial. Chris Sealer answering the questions really was crucial. He said he was a 70. And here's some of the dates. I was ordained a priest, I think either Chris or a Bishop Gibbs. And it says here that he ordained me a priest on the 29th of April, 1973. I don't know if that is Gibbs or Chris Sealer. I think it was Chris Sealer. Graduated June 3rd, 1973. So this is in the beginning of the year and middle of the year 73. So I got the Melchizedek priesthood on August 11th, 1973 by Bishop Gibbs. There we go. And patriarchal blessing by Brother Davis, December 9th, 1973. I went there fasting and praying. I think I took Dad's Dodge truck there, and so I must have got a driver's license. Enough skill that Dad trusted me to take the pickup over there. Anyhow, went on a mission a year later, December 74. I remember Mom taking 2 used pants, making me a suit, pulling them in, and shoes and whatnot. Dad didn't really want me to go on a mission, and really was upset with the bishop, but the bishop calmed him down, and he said we'd pay for the first year and we'd go from there. The church did pay for the first year of the mission. Dad paid for the second. He only wrote me 1 lines, and I think the first one was he'd pay for the second year of mission, and the second one was he was glad I went on a mission. Only wrote me once each year, and that was it. I sent letters home. Grandma sent stuff back. Mail was kind of tough in Korea. Didn't know the language well. Didn't teach many people. Didn't baptize many people. When I got back, the stake president got me going and got me into the young adult chairman, and actually got me over 2 stakes. There are about 300 young men and women, and most of them, probably only 45, 55 of them were active in this area, and most of them were inactive. 3 out of 300 members in both stakes. What a waste of youth. And if you didn't move away and find a good gal, you would probably member a part member family or a non-member and fall away from the church if you weren't already. There was a gal who was a co-chairman with me. I don't even remember her name. I can see her face, and I visited her parents, but she later married a man in Great Falls. I went to Bozeman from here, and there was a gal from Great Falls, a Susan Galloway, that I got engaged to, but we broke it off, and the family didn't like me, and they weren't impressed with me. She was the only gal in the family. She was later killed by a whacker from Malmstrom Air Force Base, and he did her in and put her body in the back of the trunk and drove her car off into the Missouri. Nice guy. Anyhow, there was a Ron Boyle that I befriended a little bit, and he later told me, he said if it wasn't for that befriending, he probably wouldn't have stayed active. So it was tough. This President Davis later caught me and Ron walking and said, if you are you getting serious about dating anyone? I said no, and he said, you better find yourself a wife. And so I took off to Provo, put my application in, took off to Provo, went 1 semester there, ran into Lorna and married her in August. There were a ton of gals in BYU in the young adult stakes there. That was one of the best decisions I ever made. And of course, friendship and fellowship is so important in the church. I'm going to end it here, and I'm going to edit this, but so important.